Welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. Today I am reviewing Discovery and Apocalypse in 5 Acts by JAJ Minton. And you may have heard of the Mintons. They are the force behind the channel Talking Story. They include Jacob, Amy, John, and Pooh. Mr. Pooh. We can't leave out Mr. Pooh. I may have unilaterally added the P to the author name to rectify the injustice of leaving out Mr. Pooh. But as you can tell at my attempt at humor here, the Mintons are friends of mine, and I am delighted to be reviewing this book of theirs. This is their debut. They wrote this book as a family, and it is book 1 of Strange Eons. I'm going to keep this review spoiler free. Also, I do want to mention that the book will be out on May 1st, and it is a kind of cosmic horror, although as you'll see, I do believe that this is one that is tough to categorize, and it may in fact just transcend genre in the best ways. And as I said, it is book 1 of a series, but it has a logical stopping point. It's not a standalone by any means, but it has a logical stopping point, making me excited to see what book 2 is all about, but also giving me a satisfying conclusion. And I would say that the 5 acts part is most definitely a nod to the acting careers of Amy and John. The structure itself is somewhat presented in a dramatic play-like fashion. There are these, fascinatingly, these disparate threads that come together in a kind of a convergence, if you will. If you're familiar with the Malazan Book of the Fallen and the Malazan books in general, there is a really great sense of convergence happening as these different threads are twisted together in the course of this book, and you see the various interactions and the ways in which these lives interconnect. I'm using these words very deliberately. And also, I want to mention that it is set in the early to mid 1990s as the time of this apocalypse that is happening. Now, I also want to mention that John and Amy's acting careers definitely seem to have put them in good stead when it comes to dialogue. And I don't know how much of the dialogue was Jacob's doing as well. I mean, the three of them collaborated. I have no idea who did what, but the dialogue is just marvelous in here. I think that the dialogue is in large part what led to these fantastically vivid characters that I found in this book. I was absolutely riveted by these characters. They are weird, eccentric, broken, beautiful, and they have some really just snappy dialogue that I just loved. I ate up. It reminded me in many ways of characters in a Quentin Tarantino film. So it was a lot of fun to interact with these characters, as fascinating and broken and disparate and diverse as they are. And many of them, in fact, are actually hybrids of one kind or another, which I think is actually a really smart choice on the part of the Mintons. You have a really diverse cast of misfits here. And why would hybridity be important in this? Well, for one thing, people who have more than one group to which they belong live often with the ambiguity of being neither this completely nor that completely. It is in some ways empowering, I suppose, because such people do have the ability to access multiple perspectives or worldviews, if you will, but it also isn't always easy being not categorizable, because humans have a tendency to be uncomfortable when they encounter something that doesn't fit their labels, when the labels don't work. And this is why such people can be misfits, and often, I think, visionaries as a result, because it is easier for them to see beyond their viewpoints. It is easier for them to transcend the accepted societal evaluation. Now, besides these vivid characters that we have in this story, we also have some really beautifully realized heavy atmosphere. There is a sense of cosmic dread hanging over the whole thing, just looming throughout the story. And this is really beautifully accomplished. It is, in that sense, a Lovecraftian story, and you do feel this cold indifference of something much larger than ourselves. In this case, though, it isn't just space. We turn toward the planet itself with our own oceans. The vastness of the ocean is something that the Mintons exploit beautifully in this story, giving us a sense of our puniness next to forces that are simply beyond our comprehension, beyond the ability of our puny minds to wrap themselves around. And we certainly do feel our insignificance in the face of such things. So, is it Tarantino meets Lovecraft? Yeah, in a sense it is, but it is much more than that as well, because this story goes beyond the eccentric and the horrific to something that is simply transcendent. It asks some pretty big questions, like who are we anyway? What are we? Are we alone in all of this vastness? What is consciousness? And in what ways are we not the individuals that we think ourselves to be, but actually interconnected? And sometimes being part of the collective is really scary. We resist the idea that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves because it is terrifying. We don't wish to be absorbed in that. So, yes, it seems that gods and mortals alike are part of the web of being, something that is so vast that our minds can't handle it at times. And this is the scale at which this story succeeds in immersing the reader. You leave the story with a sense of awe and dread and wonder, but also affection for the characters and the bonds that they are so obviously forming with each other, which are going to be, I think, pretty important for them to lean on, considering what they're going to be up against in the rest of the series. So, those are my thoughts on Discovery. You can hear some enthusiasm here. And because the Mintons are my friends, I was a bit nervous about trying this book and explaining my thoughts on it, but all that nervousness just went away as soon as I began to read the book and realized how wonderful this book is. This is a huge thumbs up from me, a big recommend. I hope that everybody will give this book a try. Discovery is just so well realized, such a mature writing voice that this family has achieved in this debut. It feels like they've been writing books like this all their lives. Such is the maturity and the panache with which they have pulled this thing off. So, that is it from me from now. Until next time.